Yeah, sure. So Playmob is we're a tech startup. We're based in London. We have built a platform that connects games to charities. So as game players are playing their favourite games, they're fundraising for their favourite causes at the same time. So the way this works is, especially in free-to-play games where you can play a game for free and purchase items inside, the game developer would nominate items within a game that could be donating money to a charity at the same time. And then our platform just enables this to happen much, much quicker. So rather than it taking 6 months to go through the legal processes of setting up a campaign, it could happen within a few days. So what we're trying to do is turn 7 billion hours per week of gameplay into time well spent. So Jane McGonigal is the director of the Institute of the Future, and she actually predicted a few years ago that it was about 3 billion hours per week. And this has jumped up massively to 7 billion hours because, you know, it's not just people playing games on console, it's mobile, social games. The demographic for gaming as well is you know, right from children from a young age up to, you know, like my mum is 65, she plays games a lot on Facebook and on mobile because it's easy, convenient, you know, they're quite social games as well, so you can play with other people. So there's just a huge amount of people playing games now. But Jane McGonigal also stated that if we can get this number up to 21 billion hours per week, so if we get people playing more games for longer, we can start solving big world problems like climate change, poverty, for example. So that's what our platform is trying to enable games to do. My background is, I come from Dundee, which is in Scotland. Dundee is kind of the home of games. So the very first Grand Theft Auto came from Dundee, Lemmings came from Dundee. And I guess, you know, from a young age I've always grown up playing games as well. Always a bit of a geek. So I've just had this fascination with games and how they're made. So I've been in the games industry now for about 12 years. It was my first job out of university was working with a game startup, working on games for training and education and social impact. And it was the social impact side that I really, really got fascinated with. I really love the whole idea of using games that already exist, you know, especially for social impact. What's the point in creating something from scratch and trying to bring in new users when you can work with what's already there? So I've done a lot of research in terms of using off-the-shelf games for education, using off-the-shelf games for social impact. So Playmob had kind of evolved from, you know, quite a few different things in my backgrounds, from working with a gaming startup right through to, you know, working with charities looking at social impact in existing games. I think it's just something that's, for me personally, I think it's something that's in my blood. I think I've got a very kind of low fear of risk, which helps. Sometimes that could be, you know, maybe slightly naive, but I think if you just go out there and just do it, you know, whether it works or not, you learn from the things that don't work, and the things that do work, then great. So yeah, I've always been like that I think from a very young age. You know, I'd always take things on that I had no fear in the outcome. And I guess that's what I'm doing right now, is I've got an idea, you're running with it, you've got a vision of where you want to take it, but you know, there might be risk along the way, but that doesn't put you off, whereas certain people might be more adverse to risk and may have to, you know, work at that a bit more in terms of being an entrepreneur. Yeah, so it's definitely for me, it's in my blood. So yeah, in terms of fears or worries about setting up the company, I guess that kind of relates to what I just said with not having very much fear. So there wasn't much that put me off. I think there's things that you learn along the way, and things that you kind of look back on and think you could do better. So building a team, for example, you can read as many books as you like about that. And I think that was one of the things that I always had concerns about, was making sure I did that properly. And you do make a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and that's what you learn from and learn to do better. But I mean, there wasn't like a whole list of things that I was worried about. I think it's more how to handle situations, and what you'd be like in certain situations, but you don't know how that's going to affect you until it happens. But I wouldn't say there's a great deal that put me off before setting up the company. So yeah, so setbacks, I think you do have moments where you have up and down moments, and I think as the company grows, they become more extreme. The highs become higher, and sometimes the lows might become lower because you're dealing with a lot more stress. And I think there's never been a time when I've thought, I don't want to do this. But there has been times when I've questioned my sanity. Because, you do take on a lot. But it's great fun as well. I love the challenge. And I think you have to love a challenge to be able to do something like this. But yeah, I mean, so there are low days, especially when, like a few things happen in a day that might not kind of go as you expected them to. But the more that happens, the more you enjoy it, which sounds really weird, because you know that you're going to learn something from it. And when you're learning, you feel good about it. So you'll know that in a few days, if you hit a low moment, it could only get better, and you're going to learn something from it. So in a few days' time, you can look back and laugh about it. But yeah, I mean, I think every entrepreneur, every young business will go through that, like, a lot.